honor David Malo, a teacher, a preacher, a businessman, entrepreneur, a historian. We learn that he exemplified the concept of give and then receive. He is truly a beacon, a light that shines the way. Not even the strongest winds of Kaua'ula can extinguish the torch of learning. On February 18, 1795, David Malo was born to A'oa'o and Heone Malo in Naupo'opo'o, Kahuloa Kona on the Big Island. His father had been a soldier in King Kamehameha I's army and was therefore attached to the king's retinue. Malo therefore grew up in close association with people of high rank and later was known to be a companion of the chiefs. When he turned 18 years old in 1813, he went to live in the court of High Chief Kuakini. During this time, he learned much of the traditional life and lore and soon became a favorite among the chiefs because of his knowledge of the traditional songs, chants, and dances. He gained a lot of knowledge from Chief Awai, an orator and genealogist. He was being noticed for his keen intelligence and retentive memory.
When Kuakini moved to Keauhou in Kailua Kona in 1814, Malo went with Kuakini and his court. There he met and married A'aleoa, a widow of Ali'i blood, in 1819. He was 24. 3 years later, A'aleoa died. They had no children. In 1823, he moved to Lahaina, Maui. In 1827, he recorded a collection of Hawaiian genealogies in his own handwriting and signed it with his Christian name, David Malo. He also signed his birthday as February 18, 1795. Then in 1828, Malo's second marriage was to another widow of Ali'i blood, Pahia Vatesepa. He was 33, she was 38. Later in 1845, Pahia died without children.
David Malo's move to Lahaina in 1823 proved to be a turning point in his career. There he met Reverend William Richards, who became a minister of education after the establishment of the constitutional government in Hawaii. In 1831, David Malo enrolled at Lahaina Luna Seminary and was among the first class of students. He was 36. He was there for 4 years, serving as a schoolmaster and instructor while also tending to his studies. Malo and the Rev. Williams complemented each other. Malo's qualities of mind and character challenged Williams. The Reverend's skills and sympathetic understanding awakened and set free the best in Malo, the pupil.
Malo learned, absorbed, and was zealous about Christianity. He read all about Christianity and lived it, thus putting aside his native beliefs. It was also here at Lahaina Luna where Malo proved to be an entrepreneur. He farmed sugarcane and produced molasses, grew cotton, purchased a loom, spun and wove the cotton into a suit, which he wore proudly.
In 1837, Malo had published his first literary work, a short religious book. Also in 1837, Malo writes a concerning letter reflecting the times in Hawaii to the chiefs Ka'ahumanu II and Matayo Kekua Naoa. Malo warns them that the political conditions in the islands were greatly changing. In this letter, he compared the kingdom to a tiny fish within a great, deep ocean full of larger fishes, who devoured the smaller ones. He wrote, "The ships of the foreigners have come, and smart people have arrived from large nations. They know our people are few, living in small nations. They will eat us up, such has been the case with the large nations. The small ones have been gobbled up."
In 1841, David Malo was appointed General School Agent for the island of Maui.
In 1845, David Malo was elected to represent in Maui in the first House of Representatives of the Kingdom. In September of that same year, Malo married Lepeka Emma Kalaniwohi from Lahaina. It was the third marriage for both. Malo was 50 years old and Lepeka was 35. She had 2 daughters from her previous marriage, and 2 years later, in 1847, Malo and Lepeka had a daughter of their own, Emma A'aleioa. This marriage was the cause of bitter sorrow and clouded much of his life with Malakali, especially in later years.
Malo led an active life in politics, in religion, in education, and in the social fabric of Hawaii. In 1843, he was Sheldon Dibble's chief. collaborator in Dibbles, The History of the Sandwich Islands, published at Halepa'i on Lahaina Luna's campus. Sheldon Dibble was Malo's high school teacher. Then in October 1847, Malo rewrote the history of Hawaii, Kamo'olelo Hawaii, Hawaiian traditions. He and other pupils at Lahaina Luna had complied, and later expanded it into the volume entitled Hawaiian Antiquities. It is among the first book ever published setting forth the ancient history, religion, and the customs of Hawaiian people as lived through the perspectives of a native author. Malo engaged in and wrote about many civic activities, some of which were controversial in nature. He was highly esteemed by all who knew him. He created the missionaries in mind as well as an example in ameliorating the condition of this countrymen and in checking evil.
In 1844, Malo was licensed to preach by the Hawaiian Association of American Ministers and continued to serve the churches throughout the islands. In addition, Malo continued to serve as a member of the House of Representatives, and in 1846 session, he took active part in one of the most important events in Hawaii's history, the Great Mahele, or the Division. Kamehameha Kolu divided the land into two groups, those of the king and those of the chiefs. Malo then worked on resolving the question of whether or not the common people would be permitted to own land. 2 years later, he was able to convince in writing why the common people should own land. His leadership in pressing this matter resulted in the kuleana, or ownership system. The common people could now own land without the threat or arbitrary confiscation.
In 1852, David Malo was ordained and installed in the newly organized church at Keokea in Kula. He served his congregation for only 13 months. There, in his new environment, his martial tragedy took a toll on him. He refused food and became reduced to such a state of weakness that his life was slipping away. The member of his congregation sought to turn him around, but to no avail. He passed away on October 21st, 1853, at the age of 60. Malo's fear that the islands would eventually fall into the possession of foreigners pursued him to the end. He made a last request that he be buried on Pa'upa'u, the hill known as Mau'opao, in the back of Lahaina Luna, away from the foreign tide.
Malo's white tomb is visible from the shore, and so his grave has become a beacon. Born and reared when traditional society was just beginning to comprehend the impact of foreign discovery, Malo lived during the transition from island chiefdoms to island kingdom. William Alexander, who was often associated with Malo in the work on Maui, referred to him as one of the brightest trophies of the gospel in the islands. He is known today as the first native Hawaiian minister to apply the principles of Christianity to the social problems of his day. Many of his predictions have come true, but his efforts for righteousness and justice have borne fruit and will continue to do so, for that kind of seed does not die.